Now that you're on the cusp of getting everything you've always wanted, the time has come for us to discuss the matter of payment. A little tit for tat for the sake of services rendered. I have to admit that I have something of my own in mind, but I'd be curious to hear what you consider a worthy exchange. It's been quite a while since I took a little stop to the human world. I don't get as many summonings as I once did. Most people aren't audacious enough to try. So I'm rather curious what has risen and fallen out of favor in terms of value among you delightful little wretches. You hear of the parable of the rich man who donates thousands upon thousands of coins to the temple, and the old beggar woman who donates 2, but those 2 coins were the only ones she had, and so, by being willing to give up everything, she gave away so much more. Prosperity gospel means nothing down below, when above you can be damned over a single thought. But it endears me all the same. Why, I believe the last time I was summoned to the human world, it was done by a little girl, with nothing more than a block of cheese to offer me to help her and her sick mother during the harsh cold of winter. I still remember her standing in the snowbank with her little frostbitten teddy bear. No, you don't understand. She gave up the last piece of food she had to me. This half-bitten, frozen over hunk of a waxy brick that she must have been nibbling on for days at a time, just trying to make it last. And I told her that I could give them anything. I could give them riches beyond their wildest imagination, a humble house with a warm fire already lit, a feast of the greatest food the world has to offer, and she asked if there was going to be cake at this great feast I offered. And I said yes, that she could have a cake if she wanted. And she asked for a cake. And I gave her a cake. I gave her exactly what she asked for, exactly what she said, exactly what she wanted. And then I left. My work was done after all. I don't know what happened after that exactly, but I'm sure you wouldn't be too surprised to hear that I saw her again quite soon. To summon a demon is to bind one's soul to hell forever after all. But maybe you'll be happy to hear that she's not cold anymore, and she'll never be again. I'm not unusual in my sadism. I still remember the vindicating feel in my gut at swiping the scraps from her hands, but rather my lack of greed. I starve for nothing. Not prior to this life, and not now. So I'm rather curious to know what you give as a person who hungers for the unattainable like never before, to the force of nature who's not well fed, but long since sated. Because I'm not just giving you what you want. I'm giving you a connection. You are doomed to the pit the minute you consider trying to summon a demon to begin with. We all know that sin starts in the soul before it can infect the mind, after all, but where you're headed, it's not about what's up there, but who knows what's up there. It's not that much different from the language of the corporate world, of business, of law. It might as well be a love language for me, and I always love to be able to know more. So, tell me, what do you consider a worthy exchange, and what do you think I consider worthwhile? I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news, but based on your circumstances and the knowledge I was willing to trade about the nature of this transaction, I'm not willing to sell for another block of moldy cheese without being from your mother's last meal. At the very least, sell me a story if you have plans of selling me down the river as the devil's fool, getting less than what you got, even though what you got is not a lot. So, tell me, what you sellin' for what you're buying? Curious. Curiouser and curiouser indeed, but I don't know if I'd be willing to sell for such a low price. I'd be half willing to consider it an insult and just devour half your soul now and let you walk the earth a husk of yourself for even considering it, but I'm already here. And it's been quite a while since I've seen the stars. You know how hell is, as far away from the sky as you can get. I mean, if you don't know, you will sooner or later, so try again. Tell me just what in the world can make this worth my while, and I'll flip that coin regarding ending your life now. Half your soul. Half your soul. Money. I can offer you immortality on tap. Infinite knowledge. Infinite resources. Only as finite as my own ability to imagine infinity is something beyond conception, and you consider money as a proper payment. Oh, my dear. Dear, bless your damn stupid heart, dear. I don't want the last 2 coins of the old beggar woman because they're coins. I want them because they're the last 2 coins she has, and pulling them from her trembling fingers is what makes it all the sweeter. Call me a sadist if you must, but I prefer to think of it as being able to find the value in anything, even 2 flea-bitten halfpennies. In another lifetime, this would be considered a virtue. And yet, here we are. Of course, given your ideas are so lackluster, we could always go with something more metaphorical until it's made literal by manifest. Consider it something of an extended payment plan. You're familiar with the tale of Rumpelstiltskin, yes? Rapunzel? Of women who were willing to trade away their firstborns for Something as petty as a couple radishes and something as great as their own lives? I see no reason why we can't initiate a similar deal. Except for the fact that if you never breed an heir, I'm out the hole a spawn. So, I propose a proposal. Like it or not, when you enter the underworld, and you will enter the underworld at some point or another, I will own you, body and soul. In a way, I'm looking to pursue a very lenient deal on your part. I want half of your life. And for that, I'll give you your dreams on a silver platter. And half of my own immortal life, bound with a golden band until the end of time itself. No death to set you free of your commitments, just the life you live now and the life you live next. I'll fulfill your deal, and in exchange, I want you to become my spouse. I'm not a romantic, first and foremost, but sentiment intrigues me. It drives the most unlikely of individuals to do the strangest of things. A mother willing to die if it means her child gets to live another day, even if it is only that one day. The old beggar woman who donates everything she has in the world with only the thought that someone else could need it more than she does. Even something as foolish as the father of Rapunzel stealing roots from the earth under the penalty of death, simply because his wife wanted them, and what she wants, she must get. I know why. Logically, that people do these things when they care for someone. Even if it's only a care for the plight of man itself. But I don't know why. Or, a more appropriate turn of phrase, I don't know how. How do you just let yourself starve when the person you're starving for doesn't even think to feed herself? How do you just let that happen? How do you let yourself die? And how are you so willing to let yourself die with the knowledge that you could have lived a life much fuller than this one if the one you loved didn't give away all you had? If the one that you loved didn't give all that you had away for a single cake? I just don't understand. Luckily, when there are things we don't understand in this life or the next, we look for ways to stay informed. We research. Of course, trying to find such knowledge in the world I know is impossible. The love that exists there is something more unlikely and spontaneous. I can't help but believe that it comes less from a place of sincerity and more from the desperate codependence of being two hopeless souls in a hopeless place. I exist as a diametric opposite to those hopeless wretches, naturally, because I hope for nothing. Because I don't need something as fleeting as a dream or a wish or a hope to fulfill any one of my desires. But that's the very reason I cannot risk such a partnership in the pit. I mean, a powerful demon such as myself looking to seek romantic partnership? Just think of the headlines. Just think of how many poor, unfortunate souls would see this as their way to get one over on their neighbor. One over on me. It's inevitable that I'll be taken advantage of just being who I am, no matter where I go. Both demons, angels, humans alike, all seek to gain something from my presence, my power. But at the very least, mortal humans don't understand the full scope of what I am and am not capable of, as well as those below and above do. The very fact that I am above some and below others indicates this well enough, but I don't care to dwell. I understand at the very least that every relationship is supposed to operate on the premise that either party could take advantage of each other at any moment. And yet, they do not. Classic prisoner's dilemma. But the premise of my whole existence at this stage is transactional. I can hope for nothing more than this. That's the bargain I would wish to forge with you. You get what you ask for, and any spousal privilege that being connected to me may bring, as well as the hardship that naturally comes from it. I too would like to receive the same sort of privilege and hardships, if only to learn more. This agreement is to be binding and everlasting. If you think you can squeak out of it before you've paid your dues, I'll see your debts raised tenfold and demonstrate to you just what being bound to me for all of time can really mean. Marriage is the comfort of a gilded cage, as opposed to being on the other side of the leash. As opposed to the end of a leash, which is nothing more than the end of a noose that God hopes you hang yourself with. Whether or not you say yes or I do, whether shaking your hand means having that hand to hold, you're going to end up in my grasp regardless. Even if you walk away now, the minute you consider contacting me, the minute you laid your eyes on me, your soul was lost anyways. And I always get what I want. I'd get my hands on you eventually, and I wouldn't even have to truly lust for it. I don't even truly lust for you, but you are granted the simple divinity that comes from just flat out being present, and shouldn't that be enough? So, I wager, do we have a deal? Or would you like to see me bend the knee, grovel beneath you, and ask the question proper, begging, pleading all the while? Will you marry me?